One of the differences between the way we typically understand God as opposed to the way many others understand God is his attitude toward human beings. Because we do not think of God as angry. We don't picture God as some angry being in the sky who's just waiting for an excuse to cast us sinners into hell. That image was created by human beings to scare other human beings. Because the theory is, and your mother knew it well, if you're scared, you'll be good. So if we scare somebody of hell, then they'll do what they're supposed to do. But see, that is not a biblical teaching. In fact, Jesus says quite the opposite in Matthew 9. Go and learn what this means, Jesus says. I desire mercy and not sacrifice. For I came not to call the righteous, but sinners. To teach that God is angry with us because of our sin is like saying that a mom is angry with her kids for being hungry to eat the dinner that she's been cooking all day. Jesus did not suffer and die on the cross so that you and I could go out and have to earn our own way to heaven, to pay for our own forgiveness. No, you see, throughout the scriptures, we're shown a God who opens his hands and satisfies the desire of every living thing. Look at that intro with me again on the first page of the bulletin. You open your hand. You satisfy the desire of every living thing. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in him. Oh, fear the Lord, you his saints, for those who fear him have no lack. The young lions suffer want and hunger, but those who seek the Lord lack no good thing. That concept of opening the hand is kind of interesting to me because I'm told that the tradition of shaking hands came about ancient times so that two people who were about to meet could show that there was no weapon in their hands. No one had a weapon to do harm to the other, so it's safe to approach. And I think of that when I hear this introit, that God, the all-powerful being of the universe, capable of doing anything he wants to, opens his hand to us. He doesn't smite us for being bad, but rather feeds us, loves us, regardless of how we behave. In the gospel for today, the people followed Jesus around like a herd of cats because he fed them bread and fish. And my mother used to have a cat that wanted nothing to do with anyone else in the household. If you even looked at that cat, it'd hiss at you. Unless you were cooking bacon. And then while you were cooking bacon, that cat would come and rub up against your legs and purr as though he had always adored you. See, those people were amazed that Jesus could do such a cool trick. He feed all those people with 5 loaves and 2 fish. Well, I don't blame them. It's pretty cool. I'd be impressed. But like we so often do, their attention was all focused on the sign, and they completely missed the theology of what Jesus was trying to teach with the sign. What Jesus did on that hillside was no more than what God does for every human being on this earth every day. He cares for all of his children in the world. He sends the rain and the sun, both upon the just and the unjust alike. But Jesus wants us to see that he has so much more to offer. And he wants us to have it. It's kind of sad that that word stewardship has become so abused and misunderstood. And so many people, they hear that word and they immediately think, the church is trying to get my money. The mistake is that if Trinity is just another social agency to you, then the word stewardship does not apply to you. You can quit being afraid. Because, see, stewardship implies responsibility and relationship. You can't be a steward of something for which you're not responsible. That's why in the ancient churches, all of the unbaptized were excused before the offering. It would have been wrong to ask them to help with the management of something that had not been entrusted to them. See, stewardship is a family process whereby we decide how to use all of those gifts that have rolled out of God's open hands. Just like a family might sit down and say, look, we can either remodel the bathroom or go on a trip to Florida. We have to decide what we want to do with the resources we have. Because we've been given a certain number of resources to manage to the best of our ability. Your gifts become my gifts, and my gifts become your gifts. And the reality is that they're all of God's gifts, and stewardship is His way of spreading all of His gifts around. And Jesus wants us to have so much more than we take. Because we don't understand God's stewardship, we tend to limit both our giving and our reception. He wants us to have all the joy He offers. The joy of telling little children the good news of the resurrection from the dead. He wants us to literally have dozens of brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers and aunts and uncles. He wants us to know the joy of feeding the poor and housing the homeless, and in so doing, leading them to a place that has eternal food and an eternal dwelling. He wants us to rejoice together as a giant family on earth with more gifts than we know what to do with. He wants people to stop focusing on the bread and the fish. Just like He wanted the woman to quit obsessing about the water in her well and to drink the water of eternal life. We tend to obsess with our particular worldly situation. But the truth is that our lives are so much bigger than the few brief years we spend on this earth as mortals. Now, those of you who are over 80, you have a task to do today. I want you to find someone who is younger than you and to tell them all the times that you worried and fretted and wasted your time on completely stupid stuff. Tell that person all the times in your life that you were completely focused on the bread and the fish of life. And now that you can see the miracle that God was working in your life, you wish you hadn't spent so much time thinking about bread and fish. And those of you who are younger, listen to that older person and learn so that we don't have to keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again. Eat the bread of life. Drink the eternal cup. Taste and see that the Lord is good. It is certainly true that in this earthly life, some of us have more physical bread than others do. It's true that it is our privilege as well, as the children of God, to go and to see to it that all people are cared for to the best of our ability. But the focus of our lives is the food we receive at this table. Here we receive the bread of life. Here God opens His hands to us and satisfies every good desire. With the bread of our paychecks, God blesses us temporarily. But with this bread, God blesses us eternally. God literally opens his hands at this table and rains down every blessing from heaven upon us as we receive the very body and blood of the one who suffered and died in our place to absolutely, positively ensure that we would have an eternal place in paradise. So stewardship, as it turns out, is just our feeble attempt to do something with all those blessings.